Look at this canvas, Hannah. You really thought a mediocre, uneducated girl like you could ever belong in the elite art world. My older stepbrother, Victor, did not even flinch as he spat those words into my face. He held a lighter in his hand right in front of my eyes and set fire to my father's original priceless landscape painting, the only piece of inheritance left to my name. That night, he framed me for burning down the family gallery, had my name dragged through the mud by every news channel in the city, and left me shivering in a cold police holding cell with zero money and no one to call. They stripped me of my legacy, destroyed my reputation, and labeled me a bitter, crazy outcast just to secure Victor's position as the sole CEO of Vanguard Fine Arts. They thought they had effectively erased me from existence. They had no idea they had just handed me the exact torch I would use to burn their entire corporate empire to the ground. If you have ever been stepped on by family members who thought their wealth made them completely untouchable, take a slow, deep breath and listen very carefully. Today's story is a masterclass in why you should never, ever push a silent person into a corner. The smell of wet concrete and cheap instant coffee is something that stays trapped in your memory forever, no matter how much success you achieve later in life. For 2 agonizing years after Victor and my stepmother, Eleanor, threw me to the wolves, that bitter cold was my daily reality. I slept on a narrow, creaky cot inside a tiny, damp storage room behind an old frame shop on the outer edge of the city. Every single night, as heavy delivery trucks roared past the cracked window, the thin glass rattled violently, shaking cold dust onto my face. My hands, which had spent years being delicate and covered in oil paint, became rough, scarred, and stained with industrial solvents. I worked 3 brutal, back-breaking jobs just to keep a simple roof over my head. I swept sawdust and stretched heavy canvases at an art framing warehouse from 5 in the morning until noon. I scrubbed greasy kitchen floors at a late-night diner until 8 at night. And from 9 at night until 3 in the morning, while my lower back throbbed with deep pain and my eyes burned under a dim desk lamp, I sat with a battered second-hand laptop, obsessively studying high-end forensic art authentication, international auction laws, and shell company acquisitions. Victor and Eleanor had built their entire status among the city's high society elite on a massive, carefully crafted illusion. Vanguard Fine Arts was treated as the ultimate beacon of culture, sophistication, and immense wealth in the state. To the wealthy collectors, museum directors, and city politicians, Victor was the brilliant, visionary young chairman carrying on our father's proud legacy. Eleanor was the elegant, philanthropic socialite who hosted lavish charity galas every single month. I was the invisible stepdaughter, the quiet girl who actually possessed my father's true artistic talent, but had zero interest in corporate politics or flashing money. When my father passed away unexpectedly, leaving the business shares split equally between us, Victor panicked. He needed full control of the firm to hide a dirty secret, and he desperately needed liquidity to fund his lavish lifestyle, his failed offshore investments, and his secret gambling debts. So they systematically set me up for a fall. They faked my signature on a series of fraudulent insurance claims. They set a controlled fire in a minor storage room at the gallery, destroyed my father's prized painting, and pointed the finger directly at me. When I tried to show the police the surveillance footage proving I wasn't even in the building that night, Victor revealed that the security hard drives had been conveniently wiped clean. "Look at yourself, Hannah," Eleanor had sneered at me in the police station hallway, her voice dripping with fake sympathy as reporters snapped photos outside. "You are just a bitter, unstable girl who couldn't stand seeing Victor succeed. Sign over your remaining company shares to pay for the damages, or we will press full arson charges and let you rot in state prison for 15 years. Victor hadn't even met my eyes during that horrific moment. He had just adjusted his silk tie, turned his back on me, and walked out to address the waiting cameras, falsely mourning the tragic downfall of his unstable sister. That cold night, after my public charges were dropped in exchange for surrendering every single share and asset I owned, I walked out of the courthouse with nothing but the clothes on my back. I did not break down. The freezing wind numbed my face long before any tears could fall. I did not yell at the sky. Instead, a cold, calculated, and terrifying clarity settled deep inside my chest. I was not going to crash their parties and make a scene. Making a scene was completely foolish. I was going to become invisible, study their weak points, and wait for the precise moment to pull the trapdoor. 5 years is a very long time when every single waking hour is dedicated to a single relentless objective. I did not stay working in that dusty frame shop forever. I used my deep knowledge of fine art and my new expertise in forensic authentication to land an entry-level position at Apex Valuation, a private corporate audit firm that specialized in assessing distressed assets and high-value collateral for major international banks. I did not care about the small paycheck. I cared about the access to confidential financial databases. I learned how ultra-wealthy families conceal bad investments. I learned how private galleries use forged provenances to secure massive bank loans. I learned how fragile an empire built on lies really is, and I learned exactly where to strike to cause complete financial paralysis. While Victor was busy giving pompous interviews to luxury magazines and Eleanor was throwing $50,000 dinner parties, I was living like a ghost in the city shadows. Every single extra dollar I earned was funneled into high-yield offshore accounts and targeted stock shorts. I lived on basic canned food every single day. I wore plain, unbranded black suits bought from clearance racks that I carefully altered myself late at night with a needle and thread. By my 4th year in the financial industry, I was no longer just an anonymous auditor. I had secretly formed my own independent corporate holding group, registered under the name Aegis Global Investments. And then Victor's own endless greed handed me the exact opportunity one had spent 5 years planning for. It started with a confidential alert on the private valuation network. Vanguard Fine Arts was secretly on the verge of total catastrophic collapse. Victor, in his endless arrogance, had taken out a massive $15 million collateral loan against the gallery's entire private collection, including the flagship building downtown. He needed the immediate cash flow to cover a catastrophic loss in a fake European art fund he had foolishly fallen for. He thought he could easily flip the gallery's assets, repay the short-term high-interest loan, and pocket a huge profit before anyone noticed. He had no idea that the loan he took out had been quietly bought up, packaged, and transferred to the secondary private debt market by a bank looking to clear its risky exposure. When the notification hit my private dashboard at Aegis, my pulse remained completely steady. The loan was valued at $15 million. The issuing bank, terrified of a public default, was willing to sell the debt paper for $6.5 million in direct liquid cash. I had $7 million sitting ready in my investment reserve. It took me less than 36 hours to execute the master transaction. Account by account, wire by wire, I deployed every single dollar I had painstakingly built over years of grueling work. I leveraged my entire reputation, pledged my firm's clean assets, and bought the debt outright. On a cold, gray Tuesday morning, 5 years to the exact day Victor had burned my father's painting, I signed the final ownership documents. I did not just purchase his debt. Because of a severe predatory clause Victor had foolishly agreed to in his rush to secure the original cash, the note holder possessed the absolute legal right to demand immediate full liquidity repayment within 5 business days if the gallery was found to be harboring forged or misvalued assets. And I knew for a fact that over 30% of Victor's current exhibition was completely fake. The executive boardroom at Vanguard Fine Arts was located on the penthouse floor of a historic downtown building. It featured floor-to-ceiling glass, polished teak tables, and original marble sculptures worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Victor sat arrogance personified at the head of the table, flanked by Eleanor and his nervous legal team. He was wearing a tailored Italian suit, looking smug and relaxed, convinced he was about to meet a representative from an anonymous venture capital group that was going to offer him a long-term bailout package. They were expecting a desperate negotiator they could push around. The heavy glass doors slid open slowly. I walked straight into the room. I was wearing a tailored jet black suit. My hair was pulled back into a sharp, severe style. Behind me walked 2 senior corporate prosecutors and a team of independent forensic art inspectors carrying heavy metal equipment cases. The entire boardroom froze instantly. Victor blinked rapidly, his mouth dropping open slightly as his brain struggled to connect the powerful, cold executive standing before him with the helpless, broken sister he had thrown into a cell 5 years ago. "Hannah," Victor stuttered, his face turning an awkward shade of red. What is this ridiculous joke? How did you bypass security in the lobby?" "I don't bypass security in buildings I own, Victor," I said. My voice was low, slow, and completely calm, cutting through the quiet room like a cold steel blade. "I am the managing director of Aegis Global." Eleanor slammed her diamond-ringed hands onto the teak table, her face twisting into immediate rage. Do not dare play your childish games here. You are a convicted fraudster. Get out of this building before I call the police. Eleanor, I interrupted softly, taking my place at the head of the long table opposite them. My legal team stood behind me like an immovable wall. Sit down and shut your mouth. How dare you speak to me like? Sit down, Eleanor, I repeated, my tone dropping an octave, deadpan and sharp. Or my inspectors will begin cross-referencing your catalog entries with federal fraud investigators before you reach the elevator. That shut her up instantly. The color drained completely from her face, leaving her looking ghostly pale, old, and hollow. My lead prosecutor stepped forward calmly and placed a thick leather-bound binder right in front of Victor. As of 8:30 this morning, he announced formally to the room, Aegis Global Investments purchased 100% of the primary debt liabilities held by Vanguard Fine Arts. My client, Ms. Hannah Vance, is now your sole and primary creditor. Victor frantically pulled the binder toward himself, his hands shaking so violently he nearly tore the first 3 pages. This is completely illegal. The original lender guaranteed us a 90-day grace period. We have a verbal agreement. You had a verbal agreement with a bank that no longer holds your contract, I replied smoothly, resting my hands flat on the glass table. And as your new creditor, I exercised my right to conduct a forensic audit of your current inventory last night. We found 12 forged provenances in your main gallery exhibition alone. That's a lie. That's a technical dispute over attribution. Victor yelled out, his voice cracking with sheer, unadulterated panic. You give us 60 days to clear the inventory, we pay the penalty interest. That is standard industry practice. That is standard practice for legitimate business partners, I corrected him softly. It is not standard practice for criminals. And it is certainly not the practice for a brother who burned his sister's life to the ground. The air in the room felt suffocating. Eleanor slumped backward into her leather chair, her hands trembling uncontrollably as she finally realized what was happening. You have 4 hours to produce $15,200,000 in liquid cash, I said, looking directly into Victor's wide, bloodshot eyes. If those funds are not transferred to the Aegis corporate account by noon today, Vanguard Asset Management will execute an immediate judicial seizure of every asset, every painting, and every physical structure attached to this firm. 15 million in 4 hours? Victor shrieked out loud, slamming his fist onto the table in a desperate, pathetic rage. We don't have that kind of cash. You know we don't. You are deliberately destroying my life's work. I am not destroying your life's work, Victor, I replied calmly, my voice steady, slow, and measured. I am simply collecting a debt. The seizure will not just cover this gallery building. It covers the townhouse on 5th Avenue. It covers the country estate. And... I paused, letting the heavy, agonizing silence fill every single corner of the vast room until the quiet was deafening. It covers the private vault where you hid our father's personal collection. The collection you claimed was destroyed in the fire 5 years ago. You can't touch that. Victor stammered out, his eyes darting frantically around the room like a trapped animal. His smug, untouchable facade was completely shattered, replaced by raw, humiliating terror. I already have, I whispered, leaning in closer across the table. You called me uneducated. You called me a stain on your elite world. You threw me out into the rain with nothing and told everyone I was crazy. I stood up slowly from my chair, taking my time as I buttoned my fitted suit jacket. Look at who holds the gavel now, Victor. I walked slowly around the long conference table until I was standing right beside his chair. I leaned down until I could hear his shallow, rapid breathing and smell the cold sweat breaking out on his neck. You have 3 hours and 50 minutes left. If the money isn't in my account by then, I am locking these heavy doors, taking the keys to your entire life, and handing your forgery records directly to the federal prosecutor. And this time, no one is coming to save you. Victor dropped his head onto the hard table, sobbing hysterically like a terrified, helpless child. Eleanor sat utterly speechless, staring blindly at the floor as her entire world collapsed into absolute ruin around her. I didn't wait for another word. I turned smoothly on my heel and walked calmly out of the penthouse suite, the heavy glass doors gliding shut behind me with a quiet, decisive click. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, Vanguard Fine Arts was officially declared bankrupt and placed under federal receivership. I bought back my father's original collection at the public liquidation sale for a small fraction of its true worth. A week later, I stood parked across the street from the Fifth Avenue townhouse, watching in absolute silence as federal marshals carried Victor's designer suits and expensive furniture out to the curb in plain cardboard boxes. Many people make the foolish mistake of thinking true revenge is fueled by blind, explosive rage. It isn't. Rage is loud, reckless, and easily defeated. True revenge is icy cold. It is meticulously planned. It is the quiet, disciplined daily work of making yourself so strong, so legally impenetrable, and so powerful that your enemies simply crumble under the heavy weight of their own arrogance. If watching a greedy, abusive family finally get stripped of their unearned power gave you a sense of clarity today, take a moment to reflect on your own personal path. Never let anyone convince you that your silence is weakness. Stay patient, work quietly in the shadows, build your strength brick by brick, and let your final victory do all the talking.